Angela Saini, Superior, The Return of Race Science. In Superior, The Return of Race Science, Angela Saini invites readers to explore the history of race, the biases that have often shaped scientific research, and how they continue to impact the modern world. Delving into controversial topics such as the origin of humanity, the concept of racial superiority, and the dark history of eugenics, Saini exposes the flawed foundation upon which many of these ideas have been built. She also analyses how race science has evolved into present-day race realism, a persistent, yet discredited paradigm. With a critical eye, this book condemns the ways in which racial bias has infiltrated science and calls for adopting a more open, inclusive perspective.
Unraveling Archaeology's Racist Roots. The study of archaeology has contributed to racial prejudice and superiority beliefs. The out-of-Africa hypothesis and multi-regional hypothesis theories have sparked debates and interpretation bias. While the exact origin story of humanity may never be known, it's crucial to reject the idea of superior races and value every human being's individual rights. Racism in science. Science is often thought to be impartial, but scientists are human and can have biases. This has led to the use of science to justify racism throughout history. Carl Linnaeus, the botanist who developed a system for categorizing living organisms, created a hierarchy of human types based on pre-existing notions of superiority. Science was used to justify colonialism, with people turning to biology to prove their theories about racial superiority. Eugenics, the idea that humans can be selectively bred for desirable traits, was mainstream for some time and inspired laws allowing the involuntary sterilization of minorities. The message is clear: racism often disguises itself as science. The enduring legacy of eugenics. The discrediting of race science and the enduring legacies of eugenics. Race science has been largely discredited since the mid-20th century. Anthropologists and geneticists argued that all humans are genetically identical, with more diversity within groups than between them. Moreover, environmental adaptations and the founder effect contribute to populations looking different. After World War II, race scientists had to couch their research in new terms, like blood types and their geographical distribution. However, some still cling to the idea of major biological differences between racial groups. Eugenics has left an enduring legacy, with the U.S. state of Indiana repealing its involuntary sterilization law in 1974, and Japan repealing a similar law in 1996. Even so, most people have turned their backs on eugenics and race science and acknowledge that they are part of a shameful past. In 1949, UNESCO was formed to fight racism and emphasize unity among all humans. There has been a constant effort to discredit and disprove the former science of race with the proven fact that genetically speaking, humans are quite closely related. Nonetheless, despite evidence proving the absence of a biological basis for race, eugenics' negative lasting legacy still persists, found mainly in the dark corners of the world. Race Science, a harmful pseudoscience. A journal called Mankind Quarterly, founded in 1960 by Reginald Ruggles Gates, a known race scientist, is still being published today. The contributors to the journal and others like them have branded themselves as race realists to make it seem like their side is supported by scientific facts. The so-called evidence is used to establish policies that reinforce inequality, while trying to create barriers to social justice where none exist. White nationalists use this harmful pseudoscience to come out of the shadows and embolden themselves. The evolution of race science. Anthropologist Jonathan Marks receives an invitation to join an email list for scientists and intellectuals who shared information about human differences. While Marx saw the term biodiversity as a celebration of cultural variation between human societies, many people on the email list saw it as a way to discuss supposed internal differences among human populations. The vocabulary of race science evolved from the term race to population and racial difference to human variation. Luigi Luca Cavalli Sforza's Human Genome Diversity Project aimed to identify genetic variation among human population groups to counter racial myths. While his goal was to promote unity, the project was still criticized for being reminiscent of 19th-century race science. To modernize the conversation around race, it is crucial to resist categorizing and separating people, even in our language. Rethinking race and identity. A shocking discovery in 2018 revealed that the Cheddar Man, once thought to have had white skin, carried genetic signatures of dark skin pigmentation. This challenges our modern ideas of race and highlights how our current notions of identity may not be backed up by historical fact. The danger lies in when we try to adjust history to fit our current narrative and how this can lead to atrocities like the persecution of religious minorities. Environmental factors and intelligence. Studies suggest that environmental factors have a greater influence on IQ than genetics or racial differences. The Bajau people, who have larger spleens and can hold their breaths underwater for long periods, illustrate how biological traits can help a population survive in a particular environment. However, the Bajau's unique ability does not translate to advanced cognitive capabilities. Racists have misused studies that examined heritability to propagate that some groups are naturally more intelligent than others. Recent science, however, tells us that environmental advantages such as access to quality education and socioeconomic status have a more significant impact on IQ. For instance, studies show that despite being white, working-class white boys in the UK achieve the lowest IQ scores. Genetic determinism and racism in healthcare. Gregor Mendel's experiments on genetics have led to the false notion of genetic determinism, where people believe that their genes determine their health outcomes. This has had a negative impact on healthcare, leading to misperceptions of certain diseases as belonging to one race or another. While environmental factors and racism play a significant role, people still cling to the idea of genetic determinism. As a society, we need to focus on diagnosing and treating these real problems instead of categorizing people. Genetic determinism has been widely believed in the healthcare industry, thanks to the initial work of Austrian scientist Gregor Mendel. Mendel's experiments breeding pea plants were groundbreaking and kick-started the science of genetics. However, his experiments led him to conclude that every organism is only a product of its genes, and that the environment in which a creature, be it human or pea plant, grows up in does not matter at all. Though flawed, Mendel's ideas were influential. Many people in the healthcare industry today still believe in genetic determinism despite the flaws in Mendel's methodology and deductions. The result is that people wrongly believe that race has a biological basis in healthcare, where genetic and environmental factors determine an individual's health outcomes. Schizophrenia serves as an example of genetic determinism in healthcare. People of Black Caribbean ancestry receive a disproportionate number of diagnoses of schizophrenia in the UK, although a study that involved over 37,000 cases revealed that only a few genetic regions could increase the risk of developing the disorder. Other diseases that are commonly misperceived as belonging to a certain race are often caused by environmental factors associated with that race. Hypertension, for example, is twice as common among Black Americans than other populations in the U.S. But this isn't because hypertension is a Black disease. It may be linked to diet or the unique stresses Black Americans face in the U.S. Society should diagnose and treat the real problem, which isn't genetic determinism but racism, bias, and the need to categorize people. True healthcare equality starts from the realization that genes don't determine a person's health outcome, and that environmental and social factors play an important role.
Superior unravels the intricate connection between race science, eugenics, and scientific biases, urging readers to take a stand against the stigmatization of racial groups and question the foundation of long-held beliefs. Although progress has been made in dismantling valid race science concepts, its remnants can still be found hidden in various falsehoods. It is crucial to recognize and dismantle these biases as we move forward. By highlighting our shared humanity and deep connections, Saini creates a path towards understanding and unity. where individual rights and mutual respect take precedence over the wrongs of the past and divisive issues.